The impacts of Israel's air offensive and also its total blockade of the Gaza Strip are really now bearing down on that region. With the bombing campaign now in its 6th day, there is widespread destruction across that territory. This is, according to Israel, all about destroying Hamas's ability to attack and indeed destroying Hamas altogether. But we are seeing more and more videos of people being pulled from the rubble, some of them dead, some of them alive, and those people who are taken go to hospitals which are overwhelmed and now running out of the things they desperately need, things like medicine, food, water and electricity, because the total blockade means that there's no fuel coming into Gaza, and that means that they can't generate electricity. The World Food Programme says that the situation there is dire, and it says that shelters are overcrowded. And of course, there's nowhere for people to go because all of the borders are closed. And so that is the situation there in Gaza. And that was one of the things that the US Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, was speaking about when he arrived earlier today in Israel. He says that he's here to show absolute support to this country after the devastating terrorist attacks that occurred last weekend. He says that the US will try to do what it can to rescue the hostages. But he's also cautioned that any response needs to be carefully calibrated.
The value that we place on human life and human dignity, that's what makes us who we are. And we count them among our greatest strength. That's why it's so important to take every possible precaution to avoid harming civilians. And that's why we mourn the loss of every innocent life. Civilians of every faith, every nationality.
Well, there are more and more signs of a potential ground assault. We were down near the border and we saw a number of Israeli artillery units. They dug themselves in and they were actually firing artillery towards Gaza. So certainly there is a clear build-up. It'll be up to Israel's wartime cabinet to decide what it does next. But even while this is going on, Hamas is still able to fire some rockets towards southern Israel. We were down there today in Sderot and we're at the site of another Hamas rocket. It had come down and injured someone. There was still a pool of blood on the ground, and we're speaking to some of the people down there. Obviously, people in those communities were absolutely devastated and terrorised by what those Hamas militants did over the weekend, and they have their own views about what needs to happen now.
It was frightening. I mean, these guys, they terrorized us. They succeeded temporarily, but we're coming back with a lot of resolve. There's only one answer. We have a lot of soldiers, and we have a lot of strength, and we're going to use it.
Whatever Israel does decide to do next, the Israeli military says Gaza will never be the same.